All right, we are live for the Friday edition of the Mike and Mario Show. Back at it one more time. Excited to connect and lots of things to talk about this prior week as well as the days ahead. But before we do that, Mario, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And you, Mike? Nice to see you again. We missed last week.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Excited to just connect again and try to talk and work our way through some of this craziness. But outside of what the obvious, Jerome Powell, Bank of England, everybody's hiking, basically strangleholding the global economy. And that's one area of focus that the mainstream media focuses on. But yet, when it comes to understanding what's really at stake here, it happens to be the transition out of the dying fiat currencies into something else. And of course, gold and silver plays a major part in that. And so there seems to be a scramble, from what I'm witnessing, a scramble towards something real and tangible by some mysterious buyers, supposedly, as well as India. So we're going to touch on a little bit of that and just see where it takes us. But for those who are tuned in, definitely throw some thoughts, ideas, suggestions out in the chat, and we'll try to jump on them as we move along and make sure we keep everybody plugged in. So let's just jump off on the first subject. And you actually sent the article, and happens to be about India. India, I'm sorry. And as of right now, there's a massive demand for silver in India. And so this caught your attention just because it typically will fly under the radar, apart from people who are really concerned about the precious metal space and where it's heading. But yeah, what brought this to your attention, and what are you thinking about it?
Well, maybe we're starting to see the puzzle of why premiums are so high in the West. Maybe it's because the Indians are buying so much, and why the supply, excuse me, the supply of silver on LBMA is dropping so much. And if you go through this article, and you could probably put it in the description, a link to it, it says that India hasn't been buying much silver in 2020-21 because of the crisis. Right. And now they're catching up, and they are on pace to buy 8,000 tons of silver this year, which is like 230 million ounces. And I think in 2021, mine production was about just over 800 million ounces. So it's almost 30%. Yeah. Of mining production the Indians are buying, and they go over what they buy silver for. But they also note that poor Indians, that's their way of buying gold, because the poor man's gold for poor Indians. And I thought that was significant. Yeah. And coupled with the silver squeeze that we're seeing in the West, we've seen in the States that it's really hard to get silver eagles. We're seeing big money buying a lot of silver. We saw that Texas billionaire bought 90 million of silver and gold a few months ago, and I think they're continuing. I mean, from what I'm seeing. So, and it's interesting that yesterday, and I spoke about this morning in my video, I noticed that the markets, everything was down on my screen, and the only thing that was up was silver, and it wasn't that much, but it's significant because in the last 2 years almost, whenever we have all the markets down, silver drops even more. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And lo and behold, I mean, silver is doing well today. If you can, want to show. Yeah.
So here we are. Yeah, and I noticed, of course, I follow, silver and gold all have traded within a certain time, certain what I would say, just a certain price range for the most part. And of course, after every so-called public obvious, like, so Jerome Powell spoke, and of course it dropped off, you know what I'm saying? Then it rallied back slightly. So it's one of the things where it's always sell the hype, and all that other stuff in between. But right now we're at $20, which to me, once again, is very impressive given the circumstances of what's going on. But then again, everything appears to be up for the most part.
And that $20 level, because I've been, I worked in the markets for a long time, and I've noticed in the last week or so that every time we got to $20, silver went straight back down. And today, though, when it broke $20, it almost went straight up to $20.30 in a matter of minutes. So that means to me that a lot of the people who were short silver, they had that level as a stop loss. So they bought it back, their futures or ETFs, and they might have even gone long now silver. And the other thing I've noted earlier on today, the Dow was up 500 points
Mhm.
And now we're down 20 points, and still silver is up like over $1.
Yeah.
Gold has come off the highs, but it's still up like 2.3%. So that's encouraging for the metals. I'm not saying everything's fine now, but it's step by step.
Right. I think another thing that's very telling is that, beyond, just as you mentioned, the retail investment, institutionally speaking, there are some big players out there trying to get their hands on physical metal right now. And so, of course, throughout the week, the whole story on the gold and the reporting from World Gold Council saying that Q3 was, relatively abnormally strong and high. But I want to get your thoughts also. Let me just go back here. Just saw this article here about from Zero Hedge. Says central banks are quietly buying gold at the fastest pace in 55 years. And so the question is, why would they be scrambling? It appears to be running towards gold. And there's a lot of suspicion as to what countries are trying to get their weight up prior to 2023, given the fact that we're all anticipating some type of a major market issues. But what are your thoughts on this sudden surge or continuous buildup
Yeah,
of gold at this current moment?
I think the countries we know, the countries, it's like Uzbekistan, Turkey, India, not many countries in the West, unfortunately. And I think the reason they're buying gold and they're rushing to gold is that it's a substitute for the dollar.
Mhm.
And with what's happened in Russia, with what's happening in relationship to China and Taiwan, I think a lot of countries, especially in the global South,
Mhm.
they're concerned that by having dollar reserves, their reserves become susceptible to getting
Complicated,
confiscated.
right?
So they're rushing to something that is physical that they can keep. That is not. It's outside the system, basically. Gold. They're stacking. So and maybe it is to do with what we've been talking about, and even uh, Putin and Putin's been talking about a reserve currency, a
Mhm.
BRICS reserve currency, and we know that the BRICS are probably going to grow to be more than just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. A lot of countries, even Saudi Arabia, are looking to join. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I see that. And yeah, mostly because they don't. It doesn't mean they're going to get rid of all their dollars, but they want to have like a little bit of
A
some
reserve, a real reserves, and a
something
real
on the
savings.
side, something with no counterparty risk.
Exactly. And speaking of which, another headline here: gold market roiled as mystery buyer waves in 300 tons. And so, once again, they gave some stats as to the publicly listed central banks and whatnot that had got gold. But then again, is there's somebody out here, apparently, according to this instant information here, that's anonymous. And so they say they start suspecting who it might be. And I think for some reason, this has a lot to do with, as you mentioned, the whole BRICS situation. And I believe as a part of this basket, this currency basket, whatever they're working on or whatever might be completed already, it has a lot to do with, being able to have enough gold in your possession to have a seat at the table or have a say in how things may play out over there. But as far as this 300, for some reason, if they were just to use the names here, so was it China, Russia, the Saudis, or India, and why? If it's just out of those four nations there, take of it what you may. My
Yeah.
bet will be
Well,
on the Saudi. Huh?
where they get these 300, because the Wogo Council reported 399, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think some countries like China, they're probably accumulating gold, but they don't report it every month. I'm not sure where this 300 tons came from. Is it from Bloomberg, I guess?
Right. So it's one of the things where take of it what you may, and we'll never
Yeah.
know the truth. But
No, but it could even also be individual investors, very heavy hitters,
yeah,
people with a lot of money, you know.
yeah. So just so based upon those four countries there, if the 300 tons happen to be purchased by a mysterious buyer, who would you be willing to say? Who is there any particular country that you would sway towards that might be?
Country, okay. I don't think it's India would have reported it, I think, and
Uh-huh.
Turkey. I would say China.
You say China? For some reason, I just feel like the Saudis, man, because the
Could be.
Saudis and the petrodollar system have
Or,
already been dismantled for the most part, and they've been heavily dependent upon the dollar because of the whole petrodollar system. And so, in order for
you
them
could
to
be
actually
right.
make it into the BRICS, they got to really get their weight up. Because I don't know what their gold holdings are. I'm sure it's not much
Yeah.
because they haven't needed for the last 50 years because of the
Yeah.
whole
No,
partnership
I
with the
think
U.S.
The Saudis probably have quite a bit of gold. I can check your gold reserves by country. Uh, here we go.
So somebody
Saudi
said,
Arabia, they've got 323 tons as per their last official data, which is only 3.9% of their foreign reserves. So you could be right because it's not that much, 323 tons. I know it's more than the UK has, but here, I'll send you the link if you want to.
yeah, let me put this up here. Copy link address. Yeah, and so I think everything that's being done under the table, out of mainstream media eyes, has to do with the transition
If you
heading into 2023.
scroll up or down, you see
There we
Saudi
go.
Arabia there is number 816. They've
Yeah,
got just more than the UK there. So yeah, 3.9% is not much. Is even less than what the UK has in terms of foreign reserves. So they could have doubled their reserves.
yeah.
It kind of, like you said, 300 tons.
So
So maybe it could be the Saudis.
and so of course we'll never know, but this is from February 2022, and so since
Yeah.
that time frame, there's been a large accumulation by central banks. So this is, but then again, yeah. In order to have a seat at the table, you're going to have some weight, and I think that's going to be.
What number are you on that list, Mike?
Oh, me? Oh man, I'm nowhere on the list.
Well, at least I think we've got more gold than the Bank of Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is funny, man. All right, let's keep it moving. What else we got here? We got a couple more subjects. As always, feel free to throw in and chime in and share your thoughts in the chat in reference to what we're talking about here. Let me keep it moving. What else we got here story-wise?
Oh yeah, maybe you could talk about the Bank of England, and they said that the UK is going to be in a 2-year recession, which
Yeah,
probably means that a couple of things, because you can never trust the central bankers, what they say.
yeah.
I think it means that we're already in a deep recession, and I think he's trying to get the public to maybe spend less because he's
Mhm.
saying it's going to be really bad, and he's
Yeah,
trying to get you to the people to spend less, so to try to bring prices down. But I don't think he'll succeed
right.
because he's in denial. I listened to that press conference, and believe me, I hate listening to these guys, but you need to listen to them so you can also see what the mainstream media is thinking, because there are loads of reporters there,
Yeah,
and none of them asked about all the money printing, the QE they did in 2020, and all the government spending that they helped monetize. Uh, they're still blaming supply chain.
Ukraine,
Yeah,
Ukraine
Ukraine.
and Russia.
And
Yeah.
someone made a really good comment on Twitter. There's a guy called Dishonest Money that I
Mhm.
follow. He said, well, the Bank of England says that we have inflation because there weren't enough workers because of supply chain problems,
Mhm.
and now they want to bring in a recession so people go out of work to bring inflation down. How does that work? They're it's just, but yeah, so that's what I think, unfortunately, that um the economy is in a lot worse shape,
Yeah.
and
No,
but
it's
I'm not sure if it's going to last 2 years. He could
yeah.
just be saying that to.
So what stood out to me is the fact that it says the economy the economy could fall into 8 consecutive quarters of negative growth if
Well,
current
yeah,
market expectations prove correct. I'm thinking like 8 consecutive quarters
that's
with growth only coming back in 2024. Like the fact they've
that's
never been right in their forecast just because it's more of a hopium and it's short term. It's just to provide confidence in the interim. Never because they can't control the markets reaction to things out in the future. So when I saw 8 consecutive quarters, I'm thinking like, I thought,
well, in the States, that wouldn't be a recession
right. And that's
because
something like they're saying 8, like
because
they're telling us 8.
negative quarters now. You had 2 consecutive in the beginning of this year, and they didn't say it was a recession.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that would be pretty bad, 8 consecutive quarters.
Right.
And
That goes past a recession in my estimates. I mean, that will put us into the depressionary style figures.
oh yeah,
And while they're
and
still hiking. Huh? Say it again.
what that will do is that's gonna, and they're thinking of raising taxes now. You know, the government, the treasury, because the public finances have a deep hole in it.
Yeah.
But how well is it gonna? How well are they gonna do if we're in a recession? By raising taxes, it's gonna make it even worse. Tax receipts are gonna go down. So even though Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng kind of screwed up with their messaging, uh, at least they had a plan to try to get the economy going again. The only problem I think mistake they made is they didn't try to tell or focus on also bringing down the size of government. But that's so difficult now because government spending is over 50% of GDP here. So if they do that, it's going to affect the GDP numbers, even though we know that GDP is a pretty meaningless numbers, but that's what people look at nowadays.
Yeah. And ultimately, have they mentioned anything about, cutting back on government subsidies and things of that nature, like, in the form of austerity, like typically like
they have, I think the energy package to cap utility bills, that's been curtailed to just 6 months. So they've done that, and yeah, they're gonna cut corporation tax. They're gonna cut like the top rate of tax. So they've backtracked on all of that, but
yeah.
I just don't think I don't think this present government and chancellor, they're going to last that long either. And unfortunately, we might end up with a labor government. I say unfortunately, but any government is unfortunate at this point of the game.
Here's another headline: UK recession guaranteed, with Bank of England outlook for 500,000 job losses. Like, it's just amazing how they can be so upfront and honest, but yet still be sugarcoating the numbers. Like they're just telling us that there's going to be massive pain, man, and it's nothing that anybody can do about it.
Yeah, because they're gonna tighten the screws in the taxation while the economy is going backwards.
Yeah, they're putting their hands around the public's neck and they're just squeezing tighter and tighter and tighter, suffocate the economy. I saw there's a comment here from Low.
Someone said Mike is cold-blooded. Damn, Mike.
What I do? I mean, it's just being honest, man. Like, like literally there. This is all.
We don't think it's funny, and the reason I'm like laughing is because it's better than crying. But it's all I've been, and you as well. We've been warning about this for years. And hopefully a lot of you guys are prepared for this. And I think one of the major ways of preparing for this is to have very little debt and have savings in real money, of course, gold and silver.
Right. And that's where, like, I don't mean to be cold-hearted or laugh and all like that, but having talked about it for so long, the wheels on the bus are falling off in real time globally. So we know what's going on, but it's all it's all predicated on the end of fiat currency, the way that it's been rolled out to us. Like literally, this is a currency crisis globally. That's what it boils down to. Too much debt leads to currency crisis, and there's a need for distractions to keep people from knowing the truth. So they make it political. We got a big race divide here on Kanye West and Kyrie Irving, anti-Semitic. I mean, they just distracting a mess out of us.
Ultimately, to distract you, all that stuff.
Exactly. All of this is theater, man.
What people need to know, I think, is that we are in a debt-based monetary system. We have been basically, I would say, since the end of, for the U.S. is like maybe since 1933. You can either say 33 or 71, but in a debt-based system, the money or the currency is debt. And usually it's the private banks that issue the currency by writing a loan to you. right? And then it credits your account. It's not really the central bank that they issue the notes, but it's the banks that create the currency through that. And the problem with it is that they lend you $100 at 10%, and you're going to have to pay 110 back. So where's that 10 going to come from? Well, it has to come from more money. And how do you create money and currency? More debt. And you get to a point where the and I think I don't know if you've seen that chart of interest services for the U.S. Treasury. It's going through the roof. Comes to a point where the debt is so big that it kind of how can I say it? Just
unserviceable. It's unmanageable.
The economy, and that's why we are going to get, according to the Bank of England, 2 years of recession or depression, because we got so much debt that we have to pay, that all our productivity is going towards paying that debt.
Right, right. And it's just, or not, or is it actually paying the debt, or just servicing the interest on the debt? I mean, that's ultimately boils down.
You're servicing the interest.
And so, like,
the debt will only be paid off when everything collapses, because then it becomes worthless.
Correct.
And so, the people who are going to get hurt are those people holding fiat currency, anything paper.
You're caught in the crossfire.
Holding the bag.
Yeah, you're caught in the crossfires of the fiat global fiat currency war, like, gym workers currency war
explosion. You're going to be in ground zero.
Exactly, and that's where it's like, it's happened numerous times throughout history in various countries recently. So it shouldn't be surprising to anybody as things unravel. So, and that's why I don't have that same sense of panic or feeling any type of concerns or fear, just because, like, I've been doing the best I can on my end to try to brace and prepare. And every time Jerome Powell speaks, I just go, I got to get my weight up.
Yeah, I got some.
You got you some quarters.
Yeah, I love those. It's my favorite, the 64 and earlier quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel very confident that people in our communities have done a great job in doing the best we can.
That's $1, Mike. 4 quarters. That's $1. When people say, "What is $1?" That's it.
100%. All right, let's keep it going. We got a couple more topics here. Then we open the phone lines, but we will let's talk about the energy situation.
Yeah.
Let me see. So you sent an article too. Let me grab it here. No, this is not that, but anyway. Well, so you sent me this one about Germany. I saw the German chancellor.
Yeah, I think Schultz, he's
in China.
Going to China.
Yeah.
And I also saw that within his coalition government, I think the foreign minister, who's a Green Party head, she's not happy he's going to China. But and it looks like Blinken and the Americans are not happy either.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
so is this? So you think is this like because Germany is such a bad place right now? Are they pivoting? Is Germany starting to pivot? You think towards the east?
I think
the West has done a lot of damage in Germany.
Olaf Scholz was, I think he became chancellor late last year, and historically he's known to be quite open to Russia and China, because he's originally from Hamburg, which is the biggest port in Germany in the Baltics. They do a lot of business with the Russians, and Germany does a lot of business with the Russians. And I think he wanted to open up to Russia and China, and that's a threat to the United States, because if you have Germany, Russia, and China like cooperating, doing business,
right,
it makes the U.S. less relevant.
Right.
And this is just my opinion and speculation that the stuff that's happening in the Ukraine was kicked off to try to get the Germans away from the Russians. So the fact that he wants to go to China, the Americans don't like that, because the Americans want the Germans and the Europeans beholden to them. They don't want Germany cooperating with the rest of the world.
So with Germany being such a manufacturing powerhouse, and basically the bedrock for the EU conglomerate, by them opening up towards the east, that right there puts the EU on really shaky grounds on top of
Yeah.
all the other debt
Well,
issues and currency issues.
I don't even think they already do a lot of business with China.
Mhm.
It's not even. It's just to try to consolidate. I think the most luxury German cars are bought by Chinese these days.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. But we will see how it plays out. Let's get to a couple more stories here. Then we open the phone lines here. Now, what is up? What's up with the liquid nitrogen? Those cargo
LN,
ships?
LNG, natural
Yeah,
gas.
yeah,
Well, it looks like the prices have dropped quite a bit in natural gas in the last few months.
yeah.
So what these tankers are doing, they're waiting for the weather to get cold and the prices to go up for them to deliver. So they're like floating around Europe, not going anywhere.
Right.
And I find that interesting because politicians don't seem to understand that these people who ship gas, trade gas,
Mhm.
they're in it to make a profit.
Right.
And I think this just like illustrates that.
Right.
It doesn't really, it's not about what I think is going to happen to the price, but it just goes to show that it's all about, why are you going to run a business not to make a profit?
Right.
So this illustrates that.
Well, good thing they don't have Biden as their president, because he would say that he's going to pass a tax on him, he's going to punish him, he's going to try
Oh
to
yeah,
get involved.
or he's going to force these ships to sell it right now.
Right. It's just interesting to see how, like, the article mentions about abnormally warm conditions right now. So typically it's cold, so they were planning on having those things delivered, but they're going to hold off a little longer until it gets cold, until more
Yeah,
of the
well,
energy crisis picks up.
it's colder this weekend, I think. So there you
Yeah,
go.
we've had abnormally warm weather here, man. So I'm appreciative of it, but it's very, it's like, okay, it definitely keep cutting my energy bill on. But let's get some questions. So we got PM Galleria. Appreciate you, man. It says, post reset, how could you structure the citizens to give 2 to 7 years at age 18 to rebuild infrastructure and manufacturing without socialist policies? Maybe no taxes, etc. We have no way to pay, but we'll need to rebuild. Okay, that's a lot in one. How could you structure citizens to give 2 to 7 at age 18? So basically, youth. How can we incentivize the youth to work in
Wow.
rebuilding?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he says without socialist policies.
yeah,
I mean, that is socialist, forcing someone to give 2 to 7 years of their life
yeah,
to build infrastructure. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think EM Galleria, the best thing is to uh, cut the size of government to the bare minimum
mhm,
and allow the private sector to build things. Right now, the private sector doesn't build infrastructure because what pays now is speculation. People want to be hedge fund managers or whatever, private equity,
mhm,
crypto. But if the government butts out and we cut the size of government and let people decide what they want,
yeah,
maybe young people will go into building infrastructure, just
yeah,
like they've been into cryptos for the last 10 years. We could maybe have an infrastructure bubble, but forcing people to do it is always the wrong thing, in my opinion.
yeah.
And that's the reason why we are in such trouble, forcing government deciding what we need to do.
Yeah, I think it's it because it starts off with saying post reset. So post reset means there's going to be lots of loss and lots of chaos, more than likely. So you may not really need to incentivize the youth to get out and work, just because a good portion of them might end up going the wrong way as far as looting and everything in between. But then again, just to rebuild their lives, a lot of people will just take the first thing that comes. So it won't be hard to get people to probably work. Now it's a matter of what are they working for? Will it be that CBDC we talking about, or what?
Low blood pressure says pay them in gold and silver as well, I would say.
Oh, that's only in a fairy tale, man. They'll never, the payment method will probably be a CBDC of some kind. Like that's how they're going to get people to work. So it's nothing good will come from that. But like I think there's going to be so much chaos that people will definitely sign up willingly for whatever is available. Since I pray, you're right, not forced, but all for a fair exchange. Yeah. What else? All right, let's get some questions. Let me get this. Feel free to throw out some thoughts, ideas, questions. Let me here. Let's hit this going. Where we go? I gotta get my little thing up here. All right. So Mario, let's see whatever questions out there.
Yeah.
How far? Here's one here. Maria says, "How far away could we be from a crack up boom in the EU?" Thank you both. Crack up boom.
Yeah, I guess that's the hyperinflation. And
Yeah.
The thing about it is that I think we are on the path to it. I spoke about this in my video today. Even one of the biggest hedge funds in the world.
Yeah, I saw that.
So the thing with the crack up boom, it might not happen, but if it does happen, it will be too late to prepare for it. And how do you prepare for hyperinflation? It's really tough. It's not just having gold and silver. I've spoken to Star Path Academy. He's in the States, but he grew up in Romania, and he went through hyperinflation. And he told me, and I spoke also to a guy in Lebanon early this year. The most important thing is having a close-knit community and being nice to people, having people, help each other out. I think some people are going into the countryside, to a bug-out place. I don't think everyone can afford to do that or is in the position to do that. But one thing about crack up boom, when it starts, it's very quick and very destructive in terms of the finances, but it also doesn't last that long. It comes quite quickly in Germany. I think it started in the summer of 1922, and by the end of 23, it was finished, and they could bring in a new currency, and things kind of calmed down after that.
Yeah, and so I see the EU unraveling, and the reason I say that is because there appears to be there's several countries within the EU working on developing their own central bank digital currencies. So I'm sensing that they're going to try to either utilize those individual currencies to control their own regions or whatever, i.e., bringing back their own somewhat sovereignty for their nations or whatnot. So I see the EU unraveling altogether to where I don't see them being under one unified body anymore. So therefore, it'd be hard to determine how each country will respond because everyone's going to be in different shape and different places along this unraveling. So
I think that would be a dagger in the heart of the globalists if the EU collapsed, the European Union and the Euro project.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, because I don't think nations like Greece, Italy, and Spain should be unified, even amongst each other. There's Southern Mediterranean, but yeah, you should let sovereignty reign. I'm not saying Europeans should cooperate, but you shouldn't put those countries together with Germany or Finland or the Netherlands. And I think the Germans are getting tired because they finance a lot of the Southern European countries through the ECB, and now they're paying for it with inflation, and they don't like that. So we could even see a country like Germany say we've had enough, of the euro.
Yeah, so time will tell.
Union.
I was looking at some of the central bank digital CBDC tracker, just showing the recent updates and developments on certain countries here. And so as of now, certain countries throughout here, they list different names for their projects that they're researching. So majority of them have euro in them, but then they got some underneath saying there's other names. And then we have France right here working on France CBDC, and so it's going to be a complete mess at the end of the day.
My hope is that central banks, they collapse before they can ever create CBDCs.
Yeah.
I know it sounds very unlikely, but you never know. When the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 90s and the Iron Curtain fell in Eastern Europe, I was an adult, and I was shocked. I thought that the Soviet Union and the Eastern European that was monolithic and it would be there for a long time. and I think is the way people think about central banks. My hope is that they go away and CBDCs become like the COVID tracker that they are trying to
Right.
push on people,
Right.
which we don't use anymore. And I never like put an NHS tracker on my phone,
Yeah.
and it's gone away. So I think people should try to ignore CBDCs as much as possible, and just like we ignored all this stuff, in 2020, 2021.
Right. Right. A good portion ignored it, but a lot of people unfortunately did not have a
Yeah,
chance.
I know. There's always the
But here's a
the,
question here. It
the
says,
sheeple.
as silver miners are in different countries, etc., why can't they come together to hold back suppliers for a better price? I mean,
Well, it's difficult. You'd have to create like a cartel, and I think that's illegal in a lot of countries. And
governments will jump on
a
that
lot
quick.
of these silver miners depend on the people who manipulate the price, the bankers, for cash flow and loans.
Right.
So it's very hard. There are a few silver miners, like I think First Majestic, who who are aware of what's going on, but a lot
Yeah.
of them are in there to make profits and to make fiat profits. Uh,
They're at the end of the day, they're publicly traded companies with shareholder responsibilities, so they have to maintain, operations. And so
yeah,
kind of trying to form a union at this point in the game,
yeah,
definitely governments will come in and crack down just because that'll go against their plan, and they'll break that union up real quick, I think.
yeah. Well,
What else
talking
I was
about
about to say?
silver, it's really doing well right now. We're at 20, almost 2080 in the spot price, so it's up almost 7%, and the Dow is up only about 40 points after being up 500. So it's an encouraging day for the metals. Gold is like 1674, up
Yeah.
2.7%. I don't remember the last time gold was up more than 2%, because a lot of times, the bullion banks, they try to keep gold from going up too much, and you hardly ever see it go up more than 2%.
Yeah, and I'll also I would be surprised if that trajectory remains without the algos kicking in at some point before market close, or just they don't want people to go on the weekend with a smiling
Anything's
face.
possible, but it's an encouraging finish to the week, even if
Right.
they
So
come in.
Who's says a dollar's not a good not a good gauge of value.
Well,
100%.
actually, can I answer that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The dollar, the fiat dollar, is actually a good uh, measure of value because it's used right now.
Right. Reserve
It's
currency.
not a good store of value over the long term, but it's a good method of exchange, right? It's a currency that is widely used, and it's also a lot of stuff is priced in dollars right now.
Everything.
Yeah. So there's three pillars. I think is John Exter who talked about it. The money has to be a good store of value, a good uh, uh, exchange, a
Yeah,
good,
let me look it up because I was talking about it.
and
Talking about it
also
the
he
other day.
said it should be a good measure of value, not store of value. And the dollar is those still has those two qualities right now. The store of value thing, I think, is going out the window. So when all those three go, then the dollar's gone as a major reserve currency. The pound. Most people quote things in dollars. Um, so that means it is a good. I've got the.
I was trying to find it the other day. I was trying to list off the principle because I had a
Yeah,
graph a while ago of 7 principles and I only got to like 3 or 4 of
yeah.
them.
It's like Bitcoin. You have to admit, in the last 10 years, it has been a good store of value, even though it's been volatile. But it's not a good method of exchange because you can't go to the supermarket. It's very hard, and it's here. If you click on that,
All right, let me.
we can. John Extra explains it quite well.
All right, let me open this up. Paste. Boom. All right, let me shoot. Where I Oh, there we go. All right, here we go.
Yeah, so it's in the first paragraph there. First, it is a means of payment or a medium of exchange. I prefer the first phrase.
Yeah.
It's simple. We all use money to pay. And then he says, where's the second?
Standard of value. Second is
Yeah,
the standard of
that's what I
value.
mean. It's a standard of value. The dollar is still a standard of value, right? And then third, it is a store of value, you see.
Yeah.
So I think the dollar is still fulfilling the first 2 points, but not the third.
Right. And even Janet Yellen, in one of her speeches in Europe a while ago, referred to cash not being a very convenient store of value in her little press conference.
Well, she doesn't know what she's talking about, does she?
But I was surprised she said that, because they're talking about people holding cash.
Yeah.
And she was saying that's not a really good, I'm like, okay,
she's
damn.
She's saying the dollar is not a good store of value.
Right. And I think she was referring to the EU, because she was she's over in the EU doing some type of conference.
Oh, okay.
What else we got here? It says, Cadillac converter. So Alistair McLeod, here's one here. Alistair McLeod thinks euro will be the first fiat that goes, as the euro has no history on like dollar, pound, or yen. What do you think? Both think? Yeah, that plays into what I was saying earlier about the EU just basically falling apart at the seams right now. Like there's so much chaos there.
I'm not sure. I think the pound will give the euro a run for its money, even though it's been around for longer.
Really?
Because the pound, the euro is held more by other countries. If you look at and so even though and if you look at what the euro is, a good chunk of it is like Deutschmarks, French franc, but just because the pound's been around for a long time doesn't mean to say it's gonna survive, especially because we're on our own now here in the UK. We're not part of the EU anymore. So, but I think it will be a close call, but I think eventually the dollar will go as well.
Yeah, it'll be the last of the Mohegans. So just looking ahead, we're beginning November, and I think a lot of people here on this side, we have elections next week, and a lot of people are concerned, or a lot of people are excited about, and trying to stir up the red wave, as it's called. Basically believe that there's going to be some type of hope if their favorite candidate gets in office. But just because it's a past have shown that due to manipulation, fraud, and everything in between, and I don't think they ever worked out whole Dominion software password. I even got a password I can log into the Dominion software. But I think after next Tuesday, man, we're going to really have a chance to see things unwind faster. Like I think it's going to be several days for to iron out the results or whatever they want.
It could be. I haven't followed too closely, but what I know is, like in Brazil, America is very divided. Here as well, there's a lot of division and instability. We've had 3 prime ministers in a few months.
Yeah.
And that's a symptom of people losing faith and confidence in the system. And that's one of the major symptoms of crack-up boom or hyperinflation.
Yeah. Political chaos. So just real quick, because I think it's low blood pressure mentioned earlier about the whole Brazilian election and the question and on the fraud or whatnot. And so Lula is, I guess, the current president. So
not yet. He's the president elect. I think he takes over in the beginning of the year, 2023. Yeah.
Now with all that, so as of right now, all the video I'm seeing out there, people in the streets, they're trying to get the military involved. You think that's going to pick up, or what do you think?
I think that's kind of from what I've seen from people I know in Brazil, and I think that's I think Bolsonaro has admitted defeat. Yes, it was very close, but I think Lula is going to have a tough time in Congress because there's big opposition and there's going to be a lot of instability in Brazil. I don't think it's going to, but I think he will be the next president.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that will be interesting to see how it turns out. But I think after next week, we're going to have a much clearer picture as to the real state of the economy beyond all these fudge numbers.
Oh yeah, after November 8th, everything.
Yeah, after November 8th, they're gonna let the truth will surface. Put like that.
There's a saying in French: after me the deluge, you know. Then what if that means, you know, the dam breaks and the water comes through and we find out the truth after
Yeah.
November 8th.
And literally, like, so, because the world will be watching, and if it happens to be a blue wave, and just because they're gonna change the result, I mean, however, you know, it's gonna be complete chaos, boy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
gonna be crazy. And but yet the market's gonna be in the green though. Watch everything.
Oh yeah.
Bad news is good news.
Yeah.
But believe me, if there happens to be some type of red wave and stuff like that, Biden basically said last week Republicans gonna bring the economy down, so they might pull the plug. So it's gonna be chaotic, to say the least. But all right, we're about 45 minutes, man. We could get ready to dial back. As always, people, it's good to connect and just share our thoughts on what's happening and what's going on. But we start out talking about metals, and we see our countries and entities scrambling to get their weight up. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of these extremely affordable prices, given the fact that they will not be that way, you know, into the future. And I think 2023.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, it's not even about whether they're affordable. It's when things kick off in terms of the crack up boom or hyperinflation, you won't be able to get it. It will be too late.
Yeah.
So it's better to be maybe early, you know, than sorry and late.
Right. Good point, man. All right, well, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you guys got some value from this chat today. And as always, Medical 64, and we'll be back at it next week, same time, same place. Be blessed. Peace.